I want to say hi to everyone as I offer a service today on getting ready for Palm Sunday and what kind of that Palm Sunday can mean. And again, I offer this into what is a very challenging time. So I want to start out by saying I know that a lot of people are watching this are going through a lot of different kinds of challenges. I think that's real important to acknowledge. I was struck by what a friend of mine said. You know, we had just done a series here at New Church Live on grieving, and my friend's point was that this is one of those rare times where there's no one who's grief adjacent. Like, we're all experiencing the grief in different ways, obviously, to different degrees, obviously, and in some ways that may not necessarily equate per se, but we're all in it. And so I think the Easter story, I think the whole rhythm of it can come to life in brand new ways for us. Much more poignant story, I feel, this year than it certainly has been for me, and imagine for many of you for a long time. So what we're reading about today is the story of Palm Sunday. Now the background to the reading I'm going to offer is Jesus has this triumphal entry into Jerusalem shortly before Easter. And it's called Palm Sunday because people laid down palms welcoming him as a king. What we miss about the story, and it's interesting just seeing how it's handled. What we miss about the story is actually Jesus ends up by the end of this triumphal, sort of this, you could call it a Super Bowl parade, ends up by the end of this parade weeping over Jerusalem because he feels like they just didn't get it. And any time in the Word that we're looking at anybody, it's really God talking about everybody. And there's a part of us that doesn't get that too. You know, that just kind of again wants an earthly king, wants a God who will come down and even solve all this stuff that we have going on right now, versus just being with us in it. Two very different views of God there. So that's where we pick up this passage, and it's Jesus kind of talking after the procession. And this is from the Gospel of John. Now there were some Greeks among those who went up to worship at the feast. They came to Philip, who was in Galilee, with request. Sir, they said, would you like to see Jesus? Philip went to tell Andrew. Andrew and Philip in turn told Jesus. Jesus said, it's a beautiful line, the hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Just a little bit of biblical knowledge there for you. Jesus never actually says the word, I am the Son of God. What he says all the time is, I am the Son of Man, I am the Son of humanity. That's incredibly powerful. Because to me, that again speaks again and again to Jesus' idea to be held in our lives the same way we would hold a treasured child, a son, a daughter, a fellow human being that we held close. Like, that's the relationship Jesus is asking for here. I tell you the truth, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it provides many seeds. The man who loves his life will lose it, while the man who hates his life in this world will keep it for eternal life. So that idea of losing your life, gaining your life, that's what I want to speak to for a little bit here, and then a little bit about seeds. So there's two different words there. We just translated the word life, lose your life, gain your life. But the word there, when it says like you're going to lose your life, it's actually the Greek word psyche. Kind of fascinating, right? Literally the word psyche. You know, what we're going to lose is our own sort of view, our own sort of construct of the way we are sure the world works. And we all have those ways, right? Where we're sure the world works this way. And then life inevitably teaches us something very different. And a lot of us are going through that teaching right now. You know, we thought life was going to be this. We had all these plans, and then all of a sudden those fall away, and we start to you know, sometimes force, sometimes willingly, sort of edge over to a different way of holding life. It's inevitable. Just even last night, you know, we were talking in a small group I had, and somebody was saying one of the beautiful things they were observing was families going out on a walk. Now, if your first view of life is that, no, that's not what our family does, we're all busy, we don't have time for a walk, that's one way to live, but that particular construct at times like this falls apart, and we end up with a different kind of life. And here's that different kind of life. It's the word Zoe, Z-O-E. Beautiful, beautiful word. And to any Zoes out there who are watching, your parents named you well. that has this idea of eternal life. And it's not just like life eternal. It has this idea of spark to it, this idea of light to it, this idea of a thriving, everlasting life. That's what Jesus is saying. Like, you're going to lose your psyche, your particular way of seeing the world. Yes, that is true, and that will happen. I mean, just folks, it's already happening to you. I mean, just think of what you believed was so important when you were young versus what you see right now. It doesn't matter what age you pick. I guarantee there's been some big changes in there. And what we pick up is we pick up Zoe. We pick up this idea of a much more eternal view of life, a much richer one. And then that becomes a seed. And Jesus kind of like portraying the same thing, like losing life, gaining life, losing life, gaining life, losing life, gaining life. He goes through it at this level. We go through it at this level. It's not that we equate our lives with Jesus's, because the universe depended on this. The universe, thankfully, does not depend on you and I. But we can see parallels there, and we see a parallel where he says, look, unless something dies, nothing can grow. But when something dies, many things actually can grow. Acorn seed. Isn't that amazing to think, like, that's a tree. And that tree can give rise to innumerable trees. There's actually, in some crazy, crazy way, there's an uncalculable, I hope I'm able to say that right, number of trees in this little thing right here. Hard to imagine, right? Because it just, like, we know that, right? But we don't necessarily know that. I think faith is when we get like, oh yeah, this is a tree. Other people can look at that and go like, no, I don't get that, I don't get that, I don't get that. But we can look at it and we can say, yep, that's a tree, that's a seed. One of my favorite lines of New Church theology is this, and Emanuel Swedenborg uses the word egg. I like the word seed a little better. I think it sort of fits better in with our contemporary language. He said the furthest we can get at any point in our life is an egg for the next. We wouldn't necessarily use that in our language, so I think probably a better modern way to hold it would be the furthest we can get at any point in our life, listen to this, brothers and sisters, is a seed for the next. The furthest we can get at any point in our life is a seed for the next. That is indeed powerful. That is indeed beautiful. And that idea, like, no matter how far we get, we're gonna get to this. Kind of cool. And so our life goes up a level. Each one just becomes a seed for going up to the next level. But every time it will feel like something's dying, because something is. It's our perspective. It's our way of thinking. We know, quote unquote, the way the world works. And God very gently saying, you know what? I got a better way to see this for you. So, brothers and sisters, have a great Palm Sunday this weekend. Looking forward to chatting with you next week. And you can join me in the New Church version of the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and bring you peace. Amen. Wishing you folks a great week. Amen.